I used to believe that I cared someone enough, analyzed their situation clearly enough, and showed them the exact door often enough they would work through it. I was wrong, and it took me 4 exhausting years to learn that lesson through a friendship that drained me, confused me, and finally humbled me. Let me tell you about my friend. She is smart and deeply kind, but for 4 years she was stuck in a toxic relationship with a guy who devalued her constantly, told her she was not good enough, not good looking, too much, just not enough. And he broke up with her over and over again. And every time he dumped her, she would call me, show up at my door, crying, sometimes late at night. And every time, every single time, I would drop everything. I would spend hours listening. I would analyze. I would say, look at that pattern. Look at how he treats you. You deserve better. Leave him. She would nod. She would agree. She would even say, you are right. And then she would go back to him, apologize to him, beg him to take her back. This cycle repeated for 4 years, not 4 months, 4 years. During those 4 years, I wasn't just her friend. I became her unpaid therapist, her crisis manager, and in my own mind, her potential savior. I would lie awake thinking, what if I said it differently? What if I sent her articles about emotional abuse? What if I just cared her more? I was trying to engineer her freedom. But here is what I didn't say at that time. I was not helping her. I was enabling the cycle because she never had to feel the full weight of her choice. She had me to catch her every time. And slowly I started running on empty. My own peace disappeared. I became anxious, irritable, and secretly resentful. Because deep down I believed if I just try hard enough, I can save her. That belief, that was my first mistake. The relationship only ended when he finally left her for good. Her begging didn't work anymore. Only then did it stop. And in the silence that followed, I finally asked myself a painful question. Was all my effort worth anything? The answer was no. These 4 painful years gave me painful but profound realizations, and even though they hurt, they became something that helped me live better. The first thing I realized is this. In many cases, people don't get saved, no matter how hard you try for them. They will stay right where they are. And this is not because you didn't do enough. It's because changing a person is never something that can be achieved through external pressure alone. When someone is stuck in a mud pit, it's not because they don't see the way out, but because first, they are not ready to bear the cost of change. Second, familiar pain, even if unbearable, still feels safer than the unknown. Third, change can feel like an identity collapse. If I change, who am I? Or they may derive hidden benefits from their suffering, such as being cared for, avoiding responsibility, or rationalizing failure. So start to see a harsh but a very real truth. Suffering itself can sometimes become a stable structure, and this became even clearer from my own experience. People don't leave a painful relationship just because they are understand them. Understanding is not enough. Because the toxic relationships are not built on logic, they are built on emotional dependency, fear, hope, identity, and attachment patterns. For her, leaving wasn't just leaving a person, it meant losing the identity of being loved, the hope that he might change, the emotional familiar of the cycle, and sometimes the fear of being alone. So even though the relationship hurt her, it was still emotionally known and the unknown felt more terrifying than the pain itself. You can see her suffering is a stable structure. The second thing I realized even more uncomfortable. My desire to save her was actually a form of arrogance because deep down I was acting as if I knew her timeline better than she did. I understood her pain more clearly than she did, and my version of her life was somehow better than her own choices, even her unconsciousness one. But that is not care, that is control, disguised as care. And this realization changed something fundamental in me. We don't save people, we can work with them, but we cannot carry them because that carrying is arrogant. This also brings me to something I didn't truly understand until much later. Karma. Not in a mystical or punishment sense, but in this simplest and most practical way. Cause and effect. Every people has their own path of learning, and sometimes what looks like suffering from the outside is actually part of that learning process. In her case, she needed to experience that relationship fully. The humiliation, the emotional addiction, the repetitive cycle of hope and disappointment, and eventually the final abandonment. Not because she deserved the pay, but because that was her process of understanding herself. And this is where it becomes important. You cannot take away someone's effect without interfering with the cause. So if I had somehow saved her early on in year two or year one, something else would have been lost. She might have never understand why she kept choosing the same person, never developed her own emotional boundaries, and very likely repeated the same patterns in a different relationship later. When you interfere with someone's karma, you don't actually free them, you delay their learning. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine a child learning to ride a bike. They fall, they struggle, they get frustrated, and every time that happens, you rush in and carry them home. They never learn how to balance. They never learn how to fall and get back up. They never learn how to ride through instability. You didn't really help them. You remove the struggle, and with it, you remove the learning. And the same is true for adults. When you keep jumping into someone's fire every single time, they never learn how to fight the exit themselves. And slowly something else happens too. You start getting burned as well. So what do we do when we care someone in pain? We don't abandon them, but we stop rescuing them. Here is the new rule I live by. First, listen, don't fix. Now, when my friends talk about their pain or complain, I simply listen and resonate with it, but I no longer try to give advice or solve it for them. And I've noticed something important. When I stopped trying to fix everything, our friendships actually gained more space. My friends actually seemed to feel more relaxed and free, as if they could simply be themselves without being guided or corrected. Second, set boundaries. My support has limit. I will give what I can, but if I feel myself disappearing into your pain, I will take a step back. Third, let them set in their consequences. As hard as it is, don't clean up their mess. Fourth, trust their path. Just like 道德经 says, 万物之自然而不敢为. Even if it looks ugly to you, it might be actually what they need to grow. Letting go of trying to save her was one of the hardest and most freeing things I've ever done. I stopped being her rescuer, and ironically, only then did we become true equals. two imperfect humans working on our own roads, not one dragging the other. So if you have a friend, a partner, or a family members you've been trying to save, I'm not telling you to stop caring. I'm telling you to stop caring. Give them back their karma. Give yourself back your peace. That's not selfish. That's spiritual maturity.